All right, guys. Hi, guys. Hope you all are doing well. This is Santosh here from Aussizz Group Elizabeth, and I'm an education consultant. And yes, we're still working from home like everybody else, and we are trying harder than ever to accommodate our clients' needs, your education and migration needs. Like always, I will try to come up with a new and interesting topic to inform you guys about a few educational and migration queries. And today I have my colleague, Certified Education Counselor, Ox, with us. And today me and Ox, we are going to talk about what's the pathway for international registered nurses. Welcome to our live session, Ox. How are you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Akshti. I'm an education consultant at Aussizz Elizabeth office. As Santosh told, today we would be discussing about a very popular topic, OBA altogether, and options for internationally qualified nurses.
All right, so guys, like I believe previously mentioned, the objective of our live session is to inform our students, about the courses that we believe that's going to help them in the future. So we will always be coming up with new and interesting topic to inform you guys. So whether it's about educational courses or some migration update, we always try to inform you as much as you can. Yeah. So today, like Ox mentioned, we'll be talking about pathways for international nurses, right? So I can't stress enough, the importance of the nurse as a profession in the whole world. If this COVID-19 crisis has taught us one thing is to have how noble and how respectable profession is medical and nursing profession. And a lot of students, a lot of our clients or a lot of our students, whether they're in student visa, dependent visa, whether they're offshore, they are qualified nurses back in their own country, and they are always looking a way to get a registered nurse or to get an RN certificate in Australia. So today in our live session, we'll try to talk about the history of OBA, what's your pathway, if you are on PCL or a diploma, if you have done PCL or diploma of nursing back from your own country. Then what's your options, and then what is actually is OBA and stuff. So without further ado, Ox, can you please tell us or a little bit or elaborate a little bit more on what's the history of EPIQ, IRA and OBA program?
Yes, please. Thank you, Santosh. Before I start with what exactly OBA is, I'd like to take you all towards the history as to how OBA came into picture. So Australia has always shown demand for internationally qualified nurses and midwives. However, the qualification that's done by internationally qualified nurses could not be equivalent in some scenarios, could not be equivalent to Australian qualifications. So AFRA has set up three set of requirements for internationally qualified nurses: their qualification, their standards, and their practical to cumulative coordination before they assess the application. So whenever an internationally qualified nurse comes to Australia and wants to work as an RN, they have to get an assessment done from AFRA. So in that assessment portfolio, AFRA assesses the qualification. First of all, for a registered nurse, they need a qualification which is equivalent to AQNM level 7, which is Bachelor's of Nursing in Australia. So most of the qualifications, they are deemed equivalent. However, for some countries like India, Nepal, Philippines, the qualifications are not deemed equivalent. So in that scenario, you have to cover a certain component that's remaining in your qualification in Australia itself, and you can work as a registered nurse in Australia. So you don't need to go ahead with another 4 years of your study. You can technically just cover the few components, and you can go ahead with your further process of registration as an RN.
Okay, so yeah.
When it, when it comes to history of nursing, technically, earlier now known as OBA, earlier there was IRON program, which has been into picture for like 10 years altogether. So IRON was there, which later moved on to EPIQ, which was another a program for internationally qualified nurses entry program. And then now it's moved on to OBA. So technically, internationally qualified nurses have been going ahead with this entire program throughout their life. So whenever you present an application to AFRA, technically, like now it's self-check. Earlier, there used to be paper applications that used to be submitted along with all your entire documents to AFRA for assessment of your qualification that you have done internationally. And now you have to do a self-check. With that qualification, they used to deem you in a stream A, B, or C category. Now, stream A, according to AFRA, was when your qualification is equivalent. So there are certain countries whose qualification is considered equivalent to Australian qualification. So you can directly work as an RN post registration. You don't need to go ahead with a different program. Then comes stream B. Now, stream B is where your qualification is equivalent but not relevant. It's relevant, sorry, but not equivalent. So when it's not equivalent, there is certain component that you have to cover, which now is OBA, which earlier was EPIC, and prior to that, it was iron. Now, if your qualification is not deemed equivalent at all, in that scenario, they give you an option to study further. And you can complete another qualification in Australia, which is equivalent to an RN or whose career outcome is a registered nurse, and you can work as a registered nurse in Australia altogether.
Okay, so I have a few questions for you, Ox, because so I used to assume, and I think lots of students did that too. They used to think OBA is just a replacement, a direct replacement for IRN program, but instead of going directly to the registration process, they now need to take an examination. How correct is that?
Well, there's a huge difference between OBA and EPIC program. Now, EPIC program was competency-based program. So there was clinical placements and theoretical components that went side by side. However, with OBA, technically it's an assessment-based program. It's named outcome-based assessment, and it's outcome-based assessment program where you are assessed on your cognitive and behavioral components before you are deemed fit to work as a registered nurse. Now, OBA has two components altogether. First one is your cognitive behavior. First one is your cognitive component, which is your multiple choice questions. Now, for internationally qualified nurses, it's called NCLEX. Most of the nurses from international countries might know what NCLEX is. They might have gone ahead with that program. Now, NCLEX is the cognitive behavior component where you have to give multiple choice questions. And once you cover that component, then you move on to component number 2, which is OSCE. OSCE is a clinical placement component or a behavioral component where you are deemed fit on your behavioral grounds whether you are competent enough to work as a nurse. Now, the OSCE program is conducted at Adelaide Simulation Health Centre only in Australia. So APRA has set only one center in South Australia, which is Adelaide Simulation Health Centre. And you have to complete that program in order to be a registered nurse. Now, for NCLEX, they are conducted at PT centers technically, and the cost is anywhere around 350 USD, which is equivalent to 486 AUD dollars. Only if you clear the NCLEX component can you move on to OSCE. You cannot jump the components, or you cannot shuffle. You cannot say, okay, I'll do OSCE first and then NCLEX. No. Post NCLEX, you move on to OSCE, which is $4,000 component. 4,000 AUD is the total cost of that component. Once you clear that component, you again submit your application to AFRA, and they'll deem you relevant. They will deem your qualification relevant and equivalent, and you can work as an RN and go ahead with post-OPA preparatory program.
Okay, so to sum up, IRN program was simply competency based. So you sleep for 2 to 4 months, then after you had a clinical assessment, but OBA is more of outcome based assessment. So you pass more NCLEX, then move to OSCE, right? So, okay, thank you for that, Art. So, look, for nursing, we all know that, the most important component is English language requirement. So, what if I don't have 7? Can I still go with the OBA?
AFRA has set very strict requirements when it comes to assessment as a registration nurse. So, one is your qualification. So, we have covered the qualification, then comes your English requirement. When it comes to English requirement, they want 7 each. Now, the only waiver in 7 each is that they consider 7 each in 2 sittings. So suppose you have 7 overall with no band less than 6.5 in one sitting, and another sitting again you have 7 overall, no band less than 6.5, and you have conducted those 2 sittings in last 6 months itself. Combined together, they will consider it 7 each. So I'll just give you an example. Like suppose I am giving a test. Okay, so I have cleared one component as 7, 7, 6.5, 6.5. So that's not 7 each. But again, after a month, I give another test and I cover 6.5, 6.5, 7, 7. So in that case, AFRA would deem me fit enough to get a registration or assessment, and I would need their English requirement categories of 7 each.
Okay, so that's a relief. It's good news, isn't it? Anyway, so look, can I get a referral from AFRA if I want to go for EPIQ program as of now? It's 2 reasons. If I'm not comfortable enough to go with OBA, can I still go with EPIQ program?
EPIC program has is not valid anymore. So only those students who have got a referral letter before March can go ahead with EPIC program. However, those who have got a referral letter for EPIC but want to go ahead with OBA, yes, they can do that. They can change their referral letters and they can ask AFRA to revise the referral letter for OBA, and they can go ahead with the OBA preparatory program.
So what do you mean is if I already have a referral letter from AFRA for EPIC, then I can still opt for OBA.
Yes, you will have two options. One is
Yeah.
EPIC. You can go ahead with EPIC, which is still valid till 2021. Okay. Another option is you can ask AFRA to revise the letter for OBA and you can give your OBA test. Now, OBA doesn't have a set time limit, so you can give it any time.
Okay. All right, guys. That was for everything related to AFRA in terms of OBA. So definitely, if you wait to prepare for OBA, there's a lots of provider that's offering coaching services. So I'm going to talk about the provider, their time durations, their normal fees, their requirement, and everything. So so first of all, why what do you expect? So once you get enrolled with the provider, what can you get from them? So what's the main objective? That's what I'm going to talk about first. So like I said, I think they have introduced these courses as Australian Preparatory Program now for international qualified nurses, right? So what it does is it tries to fully prepare you for the OBA, outcome-based assessment test, which consists of NCLEX and OSCE. Okay, so as this course has been introduced in Australia for the first time, all of us are very curious, and lots of providers, they have designed their course on the reference of other countries which have already acknowledged OBA. So lots of providers, they have experience in dealing with the nurses from USA, Canada, who has already gone through the NCLEX. So it's gonna be a little bit different for Australian settings, definitely, because Australian standard nursing standard is different than other countries, but they have designed their courses in a way that's going to help you to pass both, like NCLEX, which is multiple choice questionnaire, and OSCE setting. So let's so what you do is let's start with NCLEX testing. So NCLEX testing, like Aussizz mentioned, is multiple choice questionnaire. So they have introduced 4 weeks of NCLEX training, where they will train you on the basis of a few components such as overview and scope. So they're going to talk about overview and scope of the registered nurses settings in terms of multiple questionnaire. Then they're gonna train you on method and duration, and they're gonna have exit assessment, and they're gonna end NCLEX test setting with NCLEX review in Australia. So within these 4 weeks, you'll be trained to successfully complete OBA's NCLEX test. After the successful completion of this test, you can opt for OSCE settings. And where the institutes, I think they provide 4 weeks of OSCE settings. So OSCE definitely means is behavioral clinical settings. So what they is you need to meet master, the basic standard of nursing in Australia, like the in-hand training or simulation training or something like that, right? So with 4 weeks of OSCE setting, you have 2 weeks of theory and simulation laboratory, and 2 weeks of supervised clinical placement. So in these 2 weeks of supervised clinical placement, they will teach you basic, behavioral settings such as client hygiene and clinical handover, pre and post, operative care, and so on. So this training will help you to experience the real life scenario of registered nurse, like what do they actually do in Australian healthcare setting. So you will have a brief idea of what to expect from this, so what to expect in the real life exams in Adelaide. So both the tests, NCLEX test and OSCE, OSCE setting test, they will prepare you to clear your exam successfully, right? So for example, this was for someone who's already in Australia. So like Aussizz mentioned, you go for OBA, then there's 2 kinds of tests. If you need help from any institution, there are so many providers that's provide NCLEX test and OBA test depending on their needs. Then if you're offshore, even if you're offshore and if you are overseas qualified nurse and you want to come to Australia and train and work as a RN, then yes, you can also do that. Like Aussizz mentioned, you can do NCLEX test at PTE centers from your own country. Then for OSCE settings, you can come to Australia and give your OSCE settings as well. A lot of providers, in order to accommodate those kind of offshore times, what they have done is they have introduced post OBA of post-OBA settings, where after you have successfully completed, after completing NCLEX test and NCLEX text and the OSCE settings, and after you like receive certificate, RN certificate from Australia, what they do is they will help you build the resume. They will help you find a job or find a job in Australia, so which you ultimately need in order to stay in Australia. So they will help you with all those those sorts of things or post OBA settings, right? So now for offshore clients or for offshore students, yes, they can apply from their own country, come in here for Aussizz settings, and after that, try to find a job in their own field and ultimately look for future options, right? So, so far we've talked about OBA, we've talked about the basic component of OBA and everything, right? So wherever you are, so what's the timeline? If you start from August or September, so first is initial self-assessment. That's the first step, right? So you do initial self-assessment, you get a referral from AFRA, then you move ahead. And the second is submission of portfolio. So you need to submit a portfolio. What's your clinical experience? What's your main area of duties and kind of things. Then the third step is outcome-based assessment documents. So you need to submit your OBA documents and wait for result. And the last process is application for registration. So these are four main components. If you want to start from now, and so if you, after the completion of all these four, the four ways or four component, you will be successful in getting registered nurse in Australia. So, and us as an Aussizz group can definitely help you guys from the day one to the day last. So so it was about OBA, of course we can't, talk about everything in detail, but I believe we've talked about, so we've touched the surface, but what if somebody, they don't want to go for OBA? They've completed their Bachelor of Nursing, or they have done their PCM nursing from Nepal or Diploma of Nursing, and they still want to, they want to look for other options than OBA. Do they have any more options besides OBA?
Yes, they do have. But before I could answer that, I just have a few questions which I generally get from international students a lot in regards to OBA preparatory programs. So just to
Okay.
clarify, Santosh, as you said that this is the OBA preparatory program. So I just want to make it clear, guys, the assessment or the OBA set out by AFRA is different. This is a preparatory program which will help you gain the knowledge and skills in order to be competent enough to give the OBA at AFRA, or OBA that is deemed fit by AFRA. So this is a preparatory program that's being offered. Now, Santosh, I just have a few questions. Suppose a student gives NCLEX, okay, and they fail. So
Yep.
suppose I am a student, I'm an international student, I have paid the college a fee in regards to NCLEX and I failed that program. Am I allowed to take NCLEX again?
Yes.
Or do I have to pay the entire fee? Or how does it go?
Very good question, Knox. Thank you for that. Yes, the thing is, depending on the providers, some providers, what they have is they have certain amount of fee for like certain amount of time, right? So if you fail your NCLEX test, so with marginal minimum extra fee, then you can again attend your classes and go for test. That's the first year. Second is there's some providers who are offering unlimited 12 months of classes. So within that time, even if you fail multiple times, you can still sit at exams and prepare for your exams.
The student has an option of choosing either
Yes,
of the
yes,
providers. So they can go
yes,
ahead with
definitely.
multiple, yeah, multiple
Right.
entries and suppose I fail my OSCE. So I went to a college, I get enrolled in college, I fail my OSCE preparation. So do I need to cover those 4 weeks of components again and I need to pay that entire additional 4 weeks of component fee separately? Or how does that go? Or I can just cover that clinical placement part of OSCE.
So with the clinical placement part too, with the extra payment to AFRA, you will be eligible. If you extra payment to AFRA, you'll be again eligible to sit at OSCE, and you can try it. I don't think there's any time limit, stated by AFRA, so you can try until you clear the exam successfully.
So guys, as such, we have discussed there is a different fee structure for preparatory programs that's being offered by providers. So there are different providers that are there in the market. They don't need to be approved by AFRA in order to go ahead with that program. But yes, it's advisable to go ahead with only those providers which have a knowledge as to what AFRA, what NCLEX and OSCE programs are. So to answer your question, you asked me if a person who doesn't want to do OBA, can can
Right.
have a different option. Yes, guys, if in case you find OBA is not your cup of tea, or you are not too comfortable enough to give an OBA program, yes, you have different options. So as a registered nurse in a different country, you technically lack a certain component there. So you have an option of going ahead with master's qualification. First and primarily, the basic answer is master's or bachelor's. So you can go ahead with a bachelor's program or a master's program. But again, most of the students, they don't want to restudy the entire thing again, so they have an option of going ahead with master's program with an exit entry. So Monash University, they give an option to internationally qualified nurses to go ahead with master's program. Post completion of 6 months, they can have a GDN or an exit entry. They will get a GDN certificate, a graduate diploma of nursing certificate, which they can present to AFRA and get themselves assessed as an RN. Now, the prerequisites for this program again are English requirements that have been set out by AFRA. But the basic requirement is you need to have 4 years of your qualification as a bachelor's of that is there in bachelor's of nursing back in your home country, and you need to have a clinical placement in acute setting. So most of the registered nurse, they don't have a clinical placement in acute setting, which could be a problem. But in order to go ahead with this Monash master's program, you need to have that clinical placement in acute setting. Another option that you have is you can go ahead with the conversion program that's being offered by Curtin. So technically, you can go ahead with 1 year conversion program and get yourself accredited as an RN. Then there are programs which are like Bachelor's of Nursing graduate entries. So again, you can go ahead with those programs, study, and then complete. So either ways, if you're not giving your OBA, you have an option of studying further and getting your registration as a registered nurse in Australia.
Harvard asks, like in Nepal, we have PCL nursing, right? So diploma of nursing. I believe they are different than registered nurse, right? So
Yes.
what are the options for them? Can they still opt for OBA?
Enrolled nurses, PCL nurses, GNM, or which we call GNM in India as well, or diploma, those students who have done 3 years of qualification technically fall under PCL category. Now, they are assessed as an enrolled nurses in Australia. They are not assessed as registered nurses because they fail to meet that component. So when they're not assessed as a registered nurse, unfortunately, they cannot go ahead with OBA program. OBA program is only for registered nurses. They're not for enrolled nurses. So unfortunately, if they want to go ahead with OBA programs, there are different pathways which they can follow, but not directly.
Okay, all right, cool. So I think, guys, we've tried to talk about OBA, talk about your options if you don't want to do OBA, and they've also mentioned that there's so many providers in the market now that's gonna offer, that's offering this kind of courses. So before that, so for EN, so you told that directly they can't go for OBA, right? So what if they want to go for OBA? Is there any options, or what's the pathway for enrolled nurse or PCM nurse for OBA settings?
Yeah, so in case a person is an enrolled nurse, so technically they haven't completed 4 years of their qualification. So they have different pathways associated in Australia to become a registered nurse. They can go ahead with bachelor's of nursing. They can complete masters of nursing, 2 years study in Australia. Suppose most of the students, they do not have 7 each in their qualification, so they cannot enter most of the nursing programs. In that case, they can opt for graduate diploma of nursing. So the graduate diploma of nursing technically is a theoretical component, but all you need is 6.5 in that score. It's offered online as well. So offshore students can study GDN programs. So technically, you can cover that 1 year of component. Once you complete the GDN, you can go ahead with assessment with AFRA, and you would get a referral letter for OB. So you have an option as an enrolled nurse or a GNM or PCL that you can go ahead with GDN programs even while you are sitting offshore. You can complete that program and then further go ahead with OBA. So in case you do not want to go ahead with OBA at all, you would still have an option of going into second year of master's entry program. So you can go ahead with master's entry program post completion of your GDN. You can go into second year masters and complete your master's qualification. So you would have a year span of time to get your 7 each. Plus, you won't be wasting your time. You would be utilizing them towards your studies as a nurse. Again, Curtin University has a conversion program, which is basically again for PCL or GNM nurses or those who have 3 years of qualification in nursing. They have a conversion program. So that program is dedicated to only those nurses which have 3 months of placement in acute setting, similar to Monash program, but yeah. So you need to have a 3 months of placements in hospital, acute settings, in order to be deemed enough to get admission to a curtain conversion program. So once you complete the conversion program, you can get enrolled, you can get registered as a registered nurse in Australia post completion of that program.
So we do have options for enroll nurses as well, right?
Yes.
So not directly with OBA, but they can offer GDM, then basically have a master, or they can go with OBA itself. All right. So we hope this session has been as informative as you wanted. There's so many things we want to talk about, but unfortunately we can't discuss about everything in live sessions. So if you guys have any questions, queries, or if you want to discuss about your cases individually, then feel free to contact us anytime. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And this has been so much fun, researching and giving you guys information about OBA. We're really excited about it because there's a lots of international qualified nurses, and we think they will do a tremendous job as a registered nurse in Australia. And like I said, as an Aussizz group, as an education consultancy, we will try to help you as much as you can from the very first day. All right, so Aksa, before closing our live session, is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there any aspects you want?
Technically, you can actually go ahead with the Aussizz group for your entire process. So we can ease out the process for you. I know it's pretty stressful to go ahead with a new process that has been set out by a registered nurse. So technically, we can ease out that process for you. We can help you out with self-check. We can help you out with assessments. And then further, in case you want to go ahead with OBA program, we can help you out with OBA programs as well. And even those nurses who already have a referral letter for EPIQ, we can go ahead and help you get enrolled in your EPIQ program as well before your referral letter expires. So we do have options, a lot of options that are available for you all. And we can go ahead and help you out further post completion of your OBA into post OBA registration program as well. So you can contact us at any given point of time, and we can help you paving your entire pathway towards being a registered nurse. Now, before we leave, guys, we would like to answer a few of the questions that are there in the comments box. I think we have already covered most of the questions. So there is a question that has been asked that can we get credit transfers? So guys, when it comes to credit transfers, first of all, it's not available all year long. So credit transfers technically happen only in mid-years. So even be that for bachelor's or be that for master's, you would only get credits in certain semesters or certain intakes. And that too for the components that you've already covered. Yes, you can avail those credits as and when these universities open up their intake. But nursing is pretty preferred courses. So we would want you to stay way ahead of applying for the next intake. Most of the Jan or Feb intakes, they are almost full. So in case you want to go ahead with the next year intake program, you should start your process as soon as possible as well. Another question is, I think we have covered most of the questions. So it was pretty good, guys. Should you have any further questions, you can always leave it in the comment box and we can answer that.
Yes, we are in almost every state. So try to get in touch with your education consultant or your migration agent, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. So, like I said, we're really excited about these new courses, and we hope lots of international qualified nurses they can actually take advantage, getting yourself prepared and do exams and work and be a registered nurse in Australia. And like we said, we can always assist you from the very first day. We will post a registration, you apply for your permanent related visa copies and everything. So if there's any questions, like I said, please feel free to write the comments or get in touch with us. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And thank you so much, guys, for being with us. We're extremely grateful, and I promise we will be back again with another topic to assist you with your educational migration queries. Until then, goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.